Okay, I'm here with Leslie Maasdorp. Hello.
Hi there.
We just completed the YGL program here at the Kennedy School. Apologies for the noise in the background. They're pulling apart the Kennedy School Forum, where we've seen many interesting programs. Leslie, tell me about the YGL program. Did you enjoy it? Was it worthwhile?
You know, in many ways...
First of all, describe it.
Let me take one step back and say that, it was quite a decision to come here because it's a long time. Okay, for me it was a 15-hour flight from Johannesburg, and it takes some doing to take 2 weeks off from work. So I came in quite skeptical, I have to say, about whether the utility would match the level of effort and the sacrifice. But I can say without any doubts that this has been incredibly useful from so many different perspectives. One, I think looking at problems through different lenses, right? I think and then we had the A-team here. I mean, Thomas, if you really think about it, we had George and I, we had Dave Kurgan, we had, professors who...
and professors from many institutions. We had Harvard Business School, Kennedy School, Stanford Business School, Wharton Business School.
Yeah. And these are not just academics who have been at Harvard all their lives. Many of these people, like George and I, who've been a dean here, spent time in the White House. Many of these people worked in various administrations, from Reagan to Bush Senior to Clinton. So you had an interesting blend of experience which came through in the way they lectured. It was not a kind of serious theoretical frameworks given to us, and then we have to kind of figure out what does this mean for climate change, what does this mean for issues around poverty and so on. It was constantly we were drawn into a framework, but then we worked from absolutely micro real problems in our day-to-day lives, and then that for me was the greatest.
So back to a practical issue, it was quite exhausting.
It was extremely exhausting, but valuable. I think because
we started every day 7:30 in the morning. I was heading down to the breakfast area and wasn't getting home until 11 o'clock at night sometimes.
It was very intense, but I think it's at the end, like today I'm flying back to South Africa in a couple of hours time. You really only realize the value towards the end when everything kind of comes together in a manner.
Speak about the content a little bit. What was it you found valuable?
Well, for me, there were several ones. Firstly, the discussion around energy challenges and climate change were extremely valuable because there's a lot of hype around climate change and its implications. It was made very real and concrete and rooted into the real day-to-day policy challenges, decisions that governments have to make. It was made very real for business and for the world of finance, the world that I work in, carbon finance, etc. That's at one level. What I found particularly useful was the looking at the unconscious, what was called the unconscious mind, studying, for example, how we make decisions without realizing we have certain biases. I think that for me was incredibly helpful, as well as what Rod Kramer taught, which is really about the creative process. It's about how do you innovate in leadership, because leadership is not just about staying in charge and using authority-based models. So it was really a series of very interesting things which somehow, for me at least, came together towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess for me, some of the things that were useful was I saw three levels of usefulness here. One was the content issue in and of itself, which was learning about global warming, learning about or climate change, learning about some of the problems associated with the solutions. Even there was a very interesting thing about, I didn't realize corn ethanol presents huge problems with climate change, and that was actually brings me to the second thing. In addition to the content, it was the participants, which I found really valuable.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was actually that issue about the problems of corn ethanol was raised by Van Jones, but there were other interventions by the other fellow students, which I found very valuable, bringing in their abilities and knowledge. And I guess the third aspect to it, which I found very useful for me, I'm going through a transition now from journalism to other things, is the practical things. I guess you alluded to that in terms of the negotiating skills, learning how to present something. And as you said, I think in making decisions, the frightening. I found it very frightening. We had this presentation where we were shown how prejudiced we are, even though we think of ourselves as relatively unprejudiced people. That shows us that we have biases when we're making decisions, and we have to consider the right framework and ways to make decisions.
Absolutely.
So I found that those are very valuable. It was the content, the fellow participants. Sorry, the actual content about the facts about how difficult these problems are. The fellow participants, and then the sort of the more practical solutions or things that we can use to activate ourselves to help in these solutions in the future. And one thing that I found that was very useful was the actual structure of the courses. I don't know how they're going to do it in future, but it was a useful structure that made sense as we were going through.
Absolutely. I think the learning from other participants also should not be underestimated. For me, one of the most high-profile issues right now is in the international security environment is the issue around Iran and its intention to develop nuclear capability. And just having Siamak there, who's an Iranian American, giving an on-the-ground perspective was just so valuable. No amount of theoretical insights about where the world is at in terms of international security would have done it. But he gave a real perspective, which I guess changed a lot of our views about how it is viewed within Iran by young people like himself.
Okay, so I guess in sum, you'd recommend somebody to do this?
Without a doubt. This has been one of the most valuable 2 weeks that I've certainly spent in 2007 and also haven't spent in a long time.
In 2007, so that's a whole year. We're almost at the end of the year now, so that's a very strong statement.
And of all the executive programs that I've attended, and I've said so in my evaluation, this one ranks probably in the top 2 or 3.
Okay, there you have an endorsement, which I second on this. Excellent. Thank you, Leslie.
Great. Pleasure. Take care, man. So how often do you put your blog?